defiant and argumentative behaviors. Chain of events. So these are the chain of events that lead to the argumentative or defiant behaviors. The first one is A, the antecedent, which is the teacher. Our job is to prevent the poor choices, to motivate good choices to be made instead of the poor choices, correcting to learn, so learning from their mistakes, and de-escalating emotionally tense situations. Count to 10, keep a friend, find different methods that work for the student. The B is behavior. It varies by student, but impacts their learning, safety, or daily routine. And the C is consequences. We need to be consistent, mild, and maintain students' dignity.
Now we move on to the 3 P's of prevention. These are the prerequisite skills that should be in place in your classroom to kind of prevent these types of behaviors. Number 1 is the procedures. How are the rules followed? How they may differ from school to class. We each have our individual set of rules, but there are also school rules that need to be followed. The second of those is praise, that 5-to-1 ratio of good praise to one negative statement that may be presented to the student. It needs to be immediate and sincere, especially the positive praise, so the student takes you seriously, including a reason for some sort of negative or positive sort of statement, and avoiding labels. You don't want to label them as good or bad. The third is preparation. You have consequences, both positive and negative. You prepare for a test, then you have a positive consequence if you do well on the test. The reverse being if you don't study, your negative consequence is you will do poorly on the test. You have to be ready to implement these at any time. It's also important you want to label the behavior, not the student. When you're talking to the student, you want to label them as a student who studies for the test, not necessarily as a quote-unquote good student.
As far as restorative practices, we're not getting rid of the student and kicking them out of class. We are helping the students with their behavior. After the circle, the students are staying in class, therefore education is more equitable. We're not kicking them out of class. They're not getting what they want by leaving, and they're also staying in the classroom. It creates a bond with our students. We can find out why they're acting out, and it helps them right their wrongs. And it has to have a lot of practice. You need to do it in your classroom so they're used to it. It can't just happen automatically.
And here is the video of an example of a restorative circle. It's with older students, but it's similar to the one that we saw during our professional development.
First, I'm going to read a quote. To succeed, you must first improve. To improve, you must first practice. Young people have to be given space to grow and to feel like, okay, I made a mistake. From this learning experience, I can continue to become better. To learn, you must first fail.
When you're talking about student discipline, a lot of times we are punitive because it's faster and restorative takes more time. But restorative practices are better long-term. So at ProCone, we have a place called The Zone, which we use in lieu of suspension.
Welcome to The Zone.
It's a collaborative space where kids get into a circle and they discuss what their behaviors were and ways to correct it.
We have The Zone every morning from 7 to 9 a.m. Today, we had 8 students in The Zone. We're here today to talk about how to make things right, make mistakes, poor choices. Usually the infractions are cell phone use, disrespect, cursing, but it could also be that there was an argument in a classroom or more aggressive behaviors that also get sent to us. So even though you had a conflict that brought you here, if we can bring our best selves to this circle, we get a lot done, we learn from each other. When students come in, we go over circle guidelines so that there are agreements that we hold within this space. What does it mean to listen from the heart?
You're trying to feel like you're related to the situation.
Just like show respect to them.
Once we teach them really what the zone is and how this is not a space where there's a power dynamic between you and another person, then they kind of disarm and get to what's causing that behavior.
I had somebody come to me and tell me that a friend said something bad about me.
most of the time when you're in trouble, you get a referral and you have a consequence. They don't really want to hear your side of the story. But what happened? When you come into zones, they have a conversation with you and they kind of tell you how to solve your problem the positive. I was able to come here and work it out.
We're really just trying to get context. Whenever there's a conflict, right, both parties contribute to the conflict. Although you may not feel like you contributed to the problem, you played a piece in it. And that's a part of the social emotional learning that we're trying to get them to see. We really want to have a discussion about the things you can control.
I just need to catch myself and know my surroundings.
It is a place for students to process their role in it, understanding who is harmed, then also understanding that it's okay to reflect on what you as a student needed in that situation.
I don't need anything from others to make it right because I can be mature on my own.
But how can we help you in the maturing process? Because we're going to be here too. What I usually say is I don't want to change your behavior. I want you to think about it before you do it. Really, I've seen them becoming very intentional about what they do, what they say.
Everybody's to live up to their consequences.
And that's the whole purpose of the zone.
Me owning it, it's going to help me better.
Okay, so the next thing is the escalation cycle. It's the difference between acceleration versus agitated. When someone's agitated, it's usually confined to a certain person, whether it's huffing and puffing, mumbling under their breath, or not talking to another person, or trying to engage in a conversation. A lot of times you have to be careful not to accelerate the behavior by trying to confront them. So you see it often that they can be triggered by the acceleration and makes them continue the behavior instead of stopping to think about it. An acceleration, it could use kids look at you and say inappropriate things. They don't care what we're saying. If we can identify the trigger, stress could be fear, low self-regulation, fight or flight overrides, learning brain, it could even be boredom, or low self-esteem. It's important that we give students space and the tools so that way they're not accelerated or agitated. Put the past in the past, they have to start fresh, breathe and believe. So the first one is to stay calm. When you're approaching or talking to them, you stay calm, don't come at them. Aggressively or annoyed, try to make it so that they can have a smooth transition. Attend to those who are making good choices, so don't give them all your attention, because that's sometimes what they're trying to get from you. Walk to the student, don't run at them. Make conversation private to validate their feelings. Ask if they can use any tool to help support them. Position yourself so you can see the rest of the class, and remove the audience if possible, so you can just have them step outside, right outside your door, so you can still watch the class, but that way it's not, they're doing a lot of this for attention, you're not giving them what they want in the situation, and hopefully then preventing it from continuing.
So if it does happen and it does come to an escalation and the situation has occurred and now what do you do? Now you're revisiting everything. This is after everything has happened and you have the opportunity to talk with that student one-on-one, and that's more the rapport building and meeting with them to show that you care. So you're going to revisit the situation, have the student explain what happened, taking their feelings out, and these are the actions that happened. Then they can add their feelings in and talk about that, talk about the mistakes that they may have done and how they can grow from them. They're going to make mistakes, especially when they're agitated. They're working from their feeling and emotional side of their brain, so they're not thinking clearly. We talk about the danger and the opportunity, what could have happened to the other students, how might we have changed that. We want to be forgiving as the teachers in the classroom and talk to the students about, let's learn about what happened, but not forget, because the situation could occur again. And if you are in that situation, how are you going to deal with it? And that leads into the repairing of that and the repair plan, sitting and talking with them and being like, okay, this is what's going to happen next time should this occur again.
Well, what do you do if they still don't correct their behavior? You're going to have to reflect, but try to describe it in non-judgmental terms. You're going to recognize every good choice, which is going back to the positive praise. You want to make sure that when they're doing something right, you're pointing it out. You can replace with a skill that would work better, so they're not getting so frustrated or angry. The reasons need to be brief and focused on the student, on the individual. And then for the repair, you want to give them the opportunity to use that replacement behavior and make a better choice. It's okay for them to not agree with something, but they need to disagree appropriately rather than making it a situation in the classroom that's inappropriate. And they have to accept the consequences for the behavior that they choose.
And that is it. Bye.